Have you noticed that our functions that we've designed so far have been kind of lame? They just print something to the screen. Let's start having a bit more fun with logic and the functions that we define, and we're going to do this using none other than the return keyword. That's right, this is a powerful keyword that we can use when we are working with our functions and their definitions. Let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. So to have some fun here with our first demonstration, it's going to be to define a bouncer function. Yeah, that giant person normally that stands in front of a club checking identification to see if you can come in. We have an 18 plus club here, by the way, notice. So 18 plus to be able to get in. So what do? We ask for the name and the age parameters, and then notice I have an if function or an if statement, and that says if the name is nothing, then we are going to ask them to tell us their name, and notice we're going to return to the code. So the function is going to end. This is the example of a return command without any value or expression associated with it. In the next example, I'll show you how we can use the return function with a value or an expression. But what we're using it for in this example is just to break out of the function. Yeah, because they didn't give us their name. Yeah, they didn't give us a name value. Notice if their age is under 18, we're going to do a customized message to them. We're going to say, sorry, whoever your name is, this club is for 18 plus. Notice this breaks out of the function. And then finally, if they pass these tests by the bouncer function will print welcome into them by name and ask them to enjoy the music. All right, well, let's see this function in action. So let's go ahead and copy it to the clipboard, and then let's go to an idle session and let's input this function, and then let's call this function. So I'm going to say, okay, how about my daughter Bella, and her present age is 23. So I would hope that she gets welcomed in by the function and she's told to enjoy the music, and that's exactly what happens. Notice we did give a name. She was older than 18, and she was therefore welcomed into the club with this code right here. The function never had to go to either of these return statements. She would be mortified if she knew I was doing this right now. And someone that she works with is taking this course with me. So I'm in big trouble. Yeah, this will get brought up to her. All right, anyways, what about when she was too young? All right, let's check that out. Whoops, that's the wrong keyboard shortcut to pull up my last command. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and think back to a time when she was just 16. And of course, that club would not be for her. Finally, we do need to check the code of a non-entered name. And the age wouldn't matter because that test actually runs first in our code, doesn't it? Yeah, so there's no name, and that should promptly exit the function code. Let's try it. Yep, please tell me your name right away when there is no name value provided. So this function has taught us how powerful this return keyword can be. And in this example, as I indicated, we have created a function where the return keyword is being used just to break out of the function and doesn't carry with it any particular value. Well, as you might guess, I'm going to go ahead and show you now an example where the return does carry with it not only a value, but a couple of values here. Yeah, look at this. So we are going to define a function that does total with tip. We're going to take the amount and the tip percentage, and we are then going to create a variable tip amount, and we're going to do the round function on our amount times the tip percent divided by the 100. This 2 right here is to what place we want to round to. And then we do this for the total, adding the amount to the tip amount. So a nice little tip calculator. And let's go ahead and see this in action. Notice it's going to return, thanks to the return keyword, a couple of different values from our function. This can be an expression, or it can be, variable calls from what happened in the expression above. So neat. Let's go ahead and copy this. And we'll go over to idle and we will run it and make sure it works just like we think that it should. All right, so I'm going to clear off a little space here, paste it in, and now let's call it total underscore with underscore tip. And I'm going to say, $104.23. I had a friend with me. That's why it's so high. And what's our tip percentage? Oh, the service was absolutely amazing. I'm going to tip 25%. All right, so the tip amount, $26.06, and the total with tip, $130.29. So this works exactly as we would want it to. The return takes us out of the function, carrying with it the tip amount and the total. By the way, could you take these amounts and immediately manipulate them in your code further? Of course you could. Yeah, of course you could. So we could be taking these amounts and, writing them, manipulating them, and writing them into a new variable. So the, sky's the limit on your creativity here. It really is great that we have this return keyword so that our function can return to the surrounding code important data. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.